It is the year 850 AD. You are a goat herder named Kaldi, working the highlands of what is now Ethiopia. Your goats have wandered off again, and when you finally find them, they are not grazing. They are leaping, butting heads, running in circles with an energy you have never seen in them before, even at dawn. You follow their tracks back to a shrub with bright red berries. The goats have been eating them all afternoon. You pick a handful yourself, mostly out of curiosity, and chew on the fruit around the seeds inside. Within the hour, you feel it too. Sharper, awake, lighter on your feet than you have any right to be after a full day of walking these hills. You have just discovered the coffee plant. This story about Kaldi is a legend, first written down centuries after it supposedly happened, so historians treat it as folklore rather than fact. But something real did happen in this region around this time. Coffea arabica is native to the Ethiopian highlands, and the people living there were almost certainly the first humans to notice what its berries could do to the human body. For a long time, nobody was brewing it as a drink. Early users in the Horn of Africa ground the raw beans and mixed them with animal fat, rolling the mixture into small balls that warriors and travelers could eat for a quick boost of energy on long journeys. It was food before it was a beverage. A primitive energy bar, built entirely around a molecule nobody could name yet. The drink itself was born across the Red Sea, in Yemen. By the 15th century, Sufi mystics in Yemeni monasteries were brewing a dark liquid from roasted coffee beans, calling it qahwa. They drank it to stay alert through nights of prayer and devotion, the same way you might reach for a coffee to survive a night shift today. The port city of Mocha became the epicenter of the trade, and its name would eventually attach itself permanently to coffee mixed with chocolate. But not everyone was thrilled about it. In 1511, the governor of Mecca, a man named Khair Beg, banned coffee entirely. He believed the coffee houses springing up around the city were breeding grounds for gossip, political dissent, and behavior he considered un-Islamic. People were gathering, talking, staying awake, and thinking too freely for his taste. The ban didn't last. The Sultan of Cairo overturned it not long after, reportedly because he enjoyed coffee himself. You can draw a straight line from that moment to almost every argument society has ever had about a new drug. It spreads faster than anyone can control it, someone in power gets nervous, and then it wins anyway. Coffee reached Europe by the 17th century, and it changed the shape of daily life almost immediately. In 1652, a Greek entrepreneur named Pasqua Rosé opened London's first coffee house, and within decades the city had thousands of them. They were nicknamed penny universities. For the price of a single cup, anyone could sit for hours, read the newspapers, and argue about science, politics, and philosophy with total strangers. Some historians argue the coffeehouse culture of this era quietly helped fuel the Enlightenment itself, simply by giving people a place to stay awake and keep talking. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, a different plant was doing the exact same job. In China, tea drinking stretches back thousands of years, tied to legends of an emperor who discovered it by accident when leaves drifted into his pot of boiling water. By the Tang dynasty, tea had become deeply woven into daily ritual and trade, eventually spreading along the Silk Road into Central Asia, Russia, and eventually Britain, where it would go on to define an entire national identity. And across the ocean, in Mesoamerica, the Aztec and Maya civilizations had their own answer: cacao. Long before chocolate became a dessert, it was a bitter, spiced drink called chocolatl, reserved for warriors, nobility, and religious ceremony. Aztec soldiers were given cacao rations before battle, valued for the alertness and stamina it provided. Cacao beans were considered so valuable that they were used as currency. You could genuinely buy things with what would one day become hot chocolate: coffee, tea, cacao. 3 unrelated plants on 3 separate continents, discovered by people who had never met each other and never would. All 3 contain the exact same molecule: caffeine. This is where the story stops being about culture and starts being about chemistry. Caffeine occurs naturally in more than 60 plant species, and researchers believe it evolved independently, multiple separate times, because it works so well for one specific purpose. It is a natural pesticide. In high concentrations in a plant's leaves, caffeine paralyzes and kills the insects that try to eat it. Humans just happen to find a use for the same molecule that plants evolved as a weapon. Inside your brain, caffeine works through a kind of impersonation. Throughout the day, Your brain produces a chemical called adenosine, which builds up gradually and binds to specific receptors, slowly making you feel drowsy. It's your body's built-in countdown to sleep. Caffeine happens to be shaped just closely enough to adenosine that it can slide into those same receptors first, blocking them without activating them. Your adenosine is still there, it just can't get through. Your brain never receives the tired signal, not because you aren't tired, but because the message gets physically intercepted before it arrives. You are not less sleepy, you just can't feel it yet. This mechanism wasn't fully understood until the late 20th century, when pharmacologists, including Solomon Snyder at Johns Hopkins, mapped out exactly how adenosine receptors worked in the brain, finally explaining scientifically what humans had been exploiting instinctively for well over 1,000 years. By the 1700s and 1800s, some people had taken this instinct to genuinely extreme lengths. The French writer Honoré de Balzac was said to drink somewhere around 50 cups of coffee a day during his most intense writing periods, sometimes even eating the ground beans directly to feel the effect faster. He died in 1850, and while you can't blame a single substance for the death of a 51-year-old man who lived hard in every direction, his heart had clearly been through a lot. In 1886, an Atlanta pharmacist named John Pemberton mixed caffeine-rich cola nut extract with coca leaf extract and sugar syrup, marketing the result as a tonic for headaches and fatigue. He called it Coca-Cola. The cocaine was removed from the formula by 1903, but the caffeine stayed, and it has been in every can and bottle ever since. What started as a patent medicine sold in a single Atlanta pharmacy became one of the most recognized products on Earth, and caffeine was quietly along for the entire ride. A century later, the same instinct produced energy drinks. Red Bull launched in Austria in 1987, built around a formula the founder had encountered in Thailand, combining caffeine with taurine and sugar into a drink explicitly designed to make you feel like you could do anything. It worked. The global energy drink market is now worth tens of billions of dollars a year, sold almost entirely on a single promise: more alertness right now in a can you can carry in one hand. Right now, at this exact moment, humans are drinking an estimated 2 billion cups of coffee somewhere on Earth, on top of billions more cups of tea, cans of soda, and energy drinks. Almost none of the people drinking them are thinking about Chaldee's goats or the Sufi monks of Yemen or a nervous governor in Mecca. They're just trying to get through a Tuesday. Today, caffeine is the single most widely used psychoactive substance on the planet. Not alcohol, not nicotine. Caffeine, consumed daily by an estimated 80 to 90% of adults worldwide, in coffee, tea, soda, energy drinks, and chocolate, almost entirely unregulated, and rarely even thought of as a drug at all. It's legal everywhere. It's sold to children in soda cans. It's the first thing hundreds of millions of people reach for before they've even fully opened their eyes. You have probably had some today. And somewhere underneath that ordinary, unremarkable cup, there is a molecule that evolved as an insecticide, that a herder may have discovered by watching his goats dance, that monks used to stay awake for God, that got banned by a governor who thought it made people think too freely, and that quietly helped power the conversations that shaped the modern world. Every civilization that found this molecule kept it. Nobody, anywhere, ever tried caffeine and decided humanity would be better off without it. Maybe that tells you something about what we actually want, underneath everything else. Not to feel different exactly, but to feel like ourselves for just a little longer than our own biology would normally allow. We have always been looking for a way to hold off the tiredness of being human, and this particular molecule has been letting us do that for well over 1,000 years.